You're going to make this K a month, that K a month. Let's triple your income in 3 days. And they're curious to learn more. You being in the media makes sense because now what is the one thing that is most important to the buyer? You need a marketing team. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Boss Chronicles. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you like this episode, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I'm Delise Abraham, Faith in Sparkles World, and today on Boss Chronicles, we're going to be looking at the book, we're unpacking the book, Sell Without Selling Out, A Guide to Success on Your Own Terms. When we think of sales and selling, obviously we think of their sales coaches who are top in their industries and getting into certain programs that align with our strategy and or marketing, whatever it may be. And that looks different for everyone. Although it is important to have your own sales coach, I just want you to understand that this unpacking of the book is a leadership literature book in sales. And as a leader in your industry, although you may have your own team and although you may have your own sales mentor and sales coaching, it is necessary for you to keep learning, keep growing. And on top of all of that, you need to be abreast of of sales, essentially. You have to be abreast of sales. So you have the team, but you need to also have an understanding. Because when it comes down to it, if your sales are not performing the way it needs to, as the owner of the company, or perhaps the head of sales, or the head of the department, or maybe you are the VP of a particular section or department, if you're not making the sales needed, they're going to want to know why. Either the board might want to know why, stockholders definitely want to know why, as well as the team, your CEO. He or she may want to say, why isn't this working? What's going on here? And so, yes, you have, as I mentioned, your own sales coach or your own sales mentor that you're working with, but then you have to go within. And a lot of the things that where we're leading to, we're in this era of conscious leadership, we're getting into that spiritual leadership as well. And with that, that means you have to start looking inward, because sometimes you have all the strategies, you have the tactics, you have something that has worked for millions of other people, but for whatever reason, it's not working for you. And your coach, your mentor, they're going to tell you, you got to start looking within. Where is the blockage within yourself? And so today, with this book, Sell Without Selling Out, A Guide to Success on Your Own Terms, that is exactly what Andy Paul is talking about. He found that in the beginning of his sales career that he was selling out. He sold from a script, but that script didn't align with him. And because that script didn't align with him in his beliefs, in his value, it was hard for him to make sales. And of course, he parted ways with the company that he was with. Ultimately, that's what happened. But then he had to figure out how to sell. He had to understand the psychology of sales. More importantly, he had to understand the psychology of self when you're selling to yourself. And so this is where this particular book that he has, Sell Without Selling Out, A Guide to Success on Your Own Terms, come into play. Now, this book has several chapters, 13 to be exact. However, for this particular episode, I'm only picking two points or two chapters that I will go into depth. And the reason why I'm picking those two is because, in my opinion, that's where you get the real meat and the potatoes of the book. This is where people want to start zoning in and asking the questions to figure out and ultimately to understand the mind of their customer. Because remember, if you're doing sales, you have to be able to sell to yourself as well, because you're also a customer. So if you could sell within yourself, then you can also sell outwardly. And if you could sell with integrity and you can sell with your morals and your values intact, then it just becomes effortless. The people will come to you because they will need and want your services, those that need and may want it. And so that's essentially what he's saying in the book. And that's why I actually picked two very specific chapters in this book to help us to not only understand the book, but really to help us in our own sales route. Now, um, as before we go in there are many areas in your business and or in a business that you have to understand. We have the marketing, we have sales, we have PR, we have administrative personnel that support us in our journey, depending on what it is that your product or service is. There are all of these different and various dynamics that is part of your business. The main meat and potatoes, the core people, your marketing team, your sales team, your PR team, everyone's important. But when we're looking at the numbers, especially when you're bringing a product to launch, product to market, or service to market, and we want to target customers, how you sell is important. The psychology of sales is necessary. And I'm not talking about the wishy-washy, is your higher self aligned? Although, that's part of it. But it's more in depth than that. It is more in depth than that. So in chapter 10, let's get there. Chapter 10, curiosity. This is where we will start. That's the first one where we're going to start. Chapter 10, curiosity. And I picked this particular one because if people are curious, they will ask questions. When people are curious, they will ask questions. They will take a moment. They will pause. They will take that time to investigate. They want to understand your product. They want to understand your service. This is where your marketing comes in, right? When your marketing team is putting together and packaging your service, your product, and it goes out via your social media or your email list, that's part of to spark the curiosity of your audience, of the audience. A lot of people put in with the curiosity piece, they might say, oh, stay tuned, I have this like special announcement to make. And sometimes it's curious, but for the average person that's going through, they're like, okay, whatever. But if there's something that's teasing, something tangible, maybe you're asking a question about, instead of saying something is dropping on Friday, and you approach it, or your marketing team, I should say, approaches it by saying, this Friday, find the secrets to revolutionizing your mindset, for example, dropping Friday, launching Friday, whatever it is, right? But that will spark the curiosity of the average person going through your social media channel. Maybe they just come across it. Maybe Friday is not there yet, and they came across maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, X, one of those channels popped you up and said, recommended people to follow. So they click on your profile and then they see that and they're like, oh, well, what is this person doing that's going to revolutionize my mindset? So now they're going to be tuned in. They're curious to learn more. Now they might hit that like button, but and not only the like button, there's a high likelihood that they're actually going to follow, because and they might hit that reminder button if your reminder button is on, because the marketing team will make sure that all of the things that they need to do, your CTA, that call to action, people can do that. And so now they're going to be hitting that reminder button. They may not follow right then and there, but they've hit that reminder button because they want to be reminded of, to hear the secrets. And then on Friday's launch, the book, your ebook or your program or your challenge or whatever it else, that's what's going to be dropping. And then so on and so forth, people end up signing up. And so it's that initial stages of curiosity where your marketing team, and it's a lot of them doing a lot of things, this is where the first step in sales happens. And they're the one that's going to help spark the curiosity of your audience. That's even before the sales team has gotten in. But you understand now that whole reason why curiosity is important. We want people to stop. The world is so busy. Social media is so busy. So you want people to stop. And so he goes on and he says on page 118, 119, there are 4 keys to unlock your client's curiosity. And the 4 keys is the curiosity is as important as intelligence. Curiosity is a conversation trigger for your buyers. So remember, I was talking a lot about how your marketing team plays a huge role, plays a huge part in the curiosity. Curiosity requires intellectual humility. So now, how your product, your service is presented, it brings humility to the audience. And that's a craft. It is a craft. And curiosity requires persistence. So those are the top 4s to unlock your curiosity. He continues on, and I enjoyed this one piece where it says, curious people deploy their curiosity to better navigate the ambiguity of complex problem-solving environments. I'll read that again. Curious people deploy their curiosity to better navigate the ambiguity of complex problem-solving environments. Your audience is scrolling through social media, scrolling through your email, and they see something that sparks their curiosity because you've dropped some hints about something launching. The mindset, for example, this thing is launching. Now, there is a buildup. It's just not one day and then there's no curiosity. There's a buildup of curiosity in certain posts for a period of time to get your audience primed for this. All right. Now, he also continues on page 122 and 123. He says, the 2 answers every seller needs. I spoke about your marketing team and how that marketing team, when they're posting whatever it is that they're posting on your social media platform, in your email marketing campaigns, they're posting things strategically to captivate your audience attention. Now, your sales team has their part to do. And Andy Paul states that there are 2 answers that they need. And the 2 answers are, 1, what is the one thing that is most important to the buyer? Your sales team, even if it's only you, as well as your marketing team, because they're part of it, they need to understand what is the one thing that is most important to the buyer. What is your buyer's problem? They need to know that. So then they can address the issue. The second question that every seller needs answers to whom specifically is this one thing most important? So it seems very similar questions, but they're all very specific. And it comes down to the importance. What is important to your buyers? To the people who are buying your product, your service? And to whom? Who is that target audience? To whom specifically is this one thing important to? So are you selling mostly to middle-aged women? Are you selling mostly to young adult males? Whatever your product or service is, whom is it important to? So you can be strategic and effective in your sales. And that is how you're sparking the curiosity. So you have to ask the questions. And this is why companies spend millions and millions of dollars a year. They're asking these questions every day, over and over again. Even if they have cornered the market, they are doing that because they have to. So you should take a note and ask yourself these very specific questions. Andy Paul continues on page 123, and he says there's a right time to ask questions. Now, I'm going to read a bit more on this part here right now instead of explaining it, because I want you to get a taste of what he says about the right time to ask questions. And he goes on, the basis of influence is understanding. That means that you can never stop learning and deepening your understanding about the requirements of the buyer, about what's important to them, and about their desired business outcomes. You will learn the answer to that question only by continuing to ask questions. I mentioned just a few moments ago, this is why big companies are spending millions and millions of dollars every single year, because they need to understand their buyers. They need to know what is it that they want, what is it that they need, what is going to support them and help them. They need to know what they need so that they're putting the right products on the market each and every time. So when is the right time to ask questions? Well, according to Andy Paul, it's a continuous learning process. You need to continuously ask those questions. One of the other pieces that he talks about, and I'm only touching on several pieces on chapter 10 in curiosity because it's important. He talks about impact questions. And I'm going to read what he says about impact questions. Impact questions are those that surface the specific ways that making the change will impact the buying organization from the top all the way down to the individual. Impact questions provide context that you need. So I spoke just briefly about here the two answers, right? I shared the two answers every seller needs to know. Every seller needs to know those two answers, which is what is the one important thing that is the most important to the buyer? And then the second question that the seller needs, your sales team needs, is to know to whom specifically is this one thing most important. I continued on and I shared what is the right time to ask questions. And I shared on page 123, you need to have understanding, and you need to essentially always ask questions, because that's the only way you're going to know. You're not asking questions every single day, but you're going to have to ask your audience questions, your buyers questions at certain times. Now we go on with impactful questions. And it goes deeper because you need to understand, or the buyer needs to understand, how is this going to actually impact their lives? Once people understand how this is going to impact them, whatever product or service you're selling, they will be on board because now they're starting to rationalize it. He actually goes on to say, if your buyer is at 65% rationality, can you imagine this? Like, the psychology is down to a science, to a mathematical equation. When a buyer is approximately 65% on board with you, they purchase the product. I was shocked to hear that. 65%. He goes on with trade-off questions. Trade-off questions help expand and deepen a buyer's thinking about how to envision the problem they're trying to solve and broaden their thinking about the options and trade-offs they can make to solve it. And that's where it comes into that 65%, right? The steps that I've just outlined there, it leads the buyer on a journey to 65%. So it might seem very cut and dry of what I'm saying here, but you need to understand every post you post, anytime you record a video, every call to action that happens in a story, when you're doing PR work, whatever it is, it all takes the buyer, your audience, on a very specific journey where they are saying, yes, I need this product. Yes, I need this. This is going to help me in some way, shape, or form. And they get to that 65%. It does not happen overnight. I am here to tell you it does not happen overnight. It is a process. This is why you need a marketing team. This is why you need to have a sales team. You need people who are capable of doing the work, who want to work, and whose values align specifically with yours. They believe in your product so that they can make the sales. Yes, they may have some scripts depending on the audience that they're selling to, but overall, they need to be aligned and on board with what it is that you're selling, product or service. I want to share this piece that he has on page 132. It says, if you're going for selling in means you're not selling out. Selling in means that you're selling in a way that has integrity. Selling in is selling from a place of value. So if you're going for selling in, you need to demonstrate you have the insight and acumen to help your buyer evaluate their situation. It comes back to your audience, your buyer going on that journey from the moment they click on your social media or they open that email. They're on a journey. They're not just randomly clicking. They're seeing it. They're hitting that like button. They're following. They're showing up to a particular event because you're taking them on a journey. And that means that if you're believing in your product and service, if you're aligned and it has the values, you know it's going to benefit them, it makes it easier for your audience to buy in as well too what it is that you're selling. So that is chapter 10, curiosity. The last chapter, chapter 13, we have a few minutes here. It talks about the secret sales accelerator. Now, we have all met sales expert. People are in sales. Perhaps they started off and they're telling you you're going to make this K a month, that K a month. Let's triple your income in 3 days and all of these things. And it all sounds really great. Some people are true. Some people are not so true with what they are selling. And so this is why it's important for you to understand sales and the psychology of sales before you invest in a coach, in a mentor who is specifically in sales, so that they can properly help you. It is one thing to say, yes, I'm going to invest in myself. And then you pick a sales coach or a sales mentor to guide you through who has absolutely no idea what they are doing. And they're just giving you a copy and paste solution that may not work for you. There's a lot of them like that out there. So it's important for you to understand. I cannot stress that enough. And everyone on your team is selling. Even your marketing team, especially your marketing team, they are selling. They have to be sold in first. You need to be selling from that place of integrity, of honesty, of alignment, so your team can be selling from that position as well. So when they get on that phone call, when they're posting your in your stories, or putting out a post or a reel, they are so aligned and in tune and believing in that your audience, your buyers will feel connected and be drawn to it. It might seem hocus pocus, but it is not. And so in the Secret Sales Accelerator, he said that buyers, essentially, the secret decision that buyers make is, it's the good enough decision. And that's where that 65% comes in. Is this good enough? And he talks about the limitations, right? There are 3 constraints that buyers go through in their mind that can stop a sale. But once they understand, or the questions are answered, then now your sales can accelerate. And the 3 limitations or constraints when it comes to the sales acceleration is time, information, and understanding. He says these constraints are articulated by Nobel Prize winning economics Herbert Simon, who developed the philosophy of bounded rationality. He found that an individual's or an organization's ability to make an optimally rational decision about anything would always be comprised by these 3 constraints. So there, as I mentioned earlier, so many people who are in sales, some exceptional, they've been doing this for years, they understand the psychology of sales. Some not so very good, they're just there to scam people, because there are a lot of people who are like that. But you need to understand what the 3 constraints are, so then you can best serve and be of service. And it's time, information, and understanding. With time, it says no buyer has unlimited time to devote to making a purchase decision. So you need to have that like 5-minute pitch. Your marketing team that's putting out your that's doing marketing for you and putting out your post for you, yeah, it's in an instant, right? People see the post, they connect with the post, right? So there it is. They're grabbing the attention. Information. Your buyer does not have unlimited access to perfect information about their problem and potential solutions. And so that is where you need to be able to answer the questions about your product, your service, and how it will help them achieve their desired outcomes. And 3, understanding. Of course, your buyer will not have a perfect understanding of the scope and impact of the problem they are trying to solve. However, now it's up to you, it's up to your team to help them to understand the value that they will receive from using your product, of using your service. There will always be unknowns, but once the probability is greatly reduced, or once the buyer understands that there's value here, I'm benefiting here, this is going to solve my problem, then the likelihood of them buying is higher. With rational decisions, and this is how buyers come to this conclusion with a rational decision. It says the vision of success you create for the buyer is often a trigger for their good enough decision. So your understanding, your explanation, that persuades, that influences the buyer, and it's a trigger point for them to make that good enough decision. Then he says, he ends with selling in pillars. And there are a few points. There are 5 points to sell in pillars. It says, 6 points. You have to know, the questions are, what thing or things have occurred for you to be in the position to be the first seller to present a vision of success for your buyer. So that's one of the first pillars. You need to position it so that your buyer, your audience, the person that's going to ultimately get your product or service, they need to have a vision of success. They need to see the value and the benefits of it. Then he says the first is understanding. They need to understand, how is this going to solve their problem, right? So as I said, the marketing team does their work, the PR team does their work. Then they get curiosity. Now they have understanding about, okay, Delisa can solve my problem. Now I'm curious, well, what's the solution? This is where now they're asking questions. The third thing, the first to credibility and trust. This is where your PR team comes in. This is where your reviews are necessary. This is where you being in the media makes sense, because now people can trust you and they're seeing that you're credible. The other thing that your buyer goes through in these pillars is why you. Why you? If you've ever done a pitch for your company to get investors, they're always going to ask you, why you? Why should I come with you versus the other guy down the street who's selling it more expensive or more cheaper, or whatever the case may be? And then the last one is, you need to make the first connection. Those are the pillars that you're going to need to get your buyer to that good enough decision-making piece where they're buying. Now, all of these things happens exceptionally quickly. From the post that goes out, to the engagement that your team is happening, to you explaining the results, right? These testimonials that goes out, to your buyers asking questions. Maybe you have one of your posts once a week, this or that, or what do you think of this? And so now you're getting the feedback in the comments from your buyers, from your prospects. So you go through all of these pillars, and it seems like it's going to take forever and a day, but remember, it's ever evolving. It's ever going on and moving forward. It's this whole like machine, essentially, so that you're taking people through a cycle. And once people like, know, and trust you, it makes it easier for them to rationally buy a product, to buy your service. With my daughter's book, Superhero Faith, Dr. Faith, with these books, when we first came out, we were unknown. I did not think we would sell thousands and thousands of copies. I thought it was just like family and friends that would buy, because we started off, it was like, how are we going to do this? It was during COVID. We weren't sure. But as time went on and she started winning the awards, and children's lives were being changed, and parents were submitting their reviews, and awards were being won, and we started doing charitable work with certain specific organizations where her books were not only being sold, but they were given to kids. Then all of a sudden, now people not only know, like, and trust us, teachers were buying it. Teachers are buying the books. They're putting it in their classroom. They're sharing testimonials. And so it's still ever a process. We still go out to sell the books, but we still have a core audience from when we first started that still sticks with us and still reshares our services, our products, and not only reshares it, but continues to comment and recommend so that her books will continue to sell. So it is that process. I hope you enjoyed today's unpacking of Boss Chronicles, Sell Without Selling Out, a guide to success on your own terms by Andy Paul. I'm Delisa Abraham, your host. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I will see you on another episode. Have an incredible week.